I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews with Joshua Tobkin, co-founder and CEO of Supra. Joshua, welcome to the show, and it is great to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me again.
You're very welcome. It's been a while since you guys have been working on this. It's a huge initiative, and you've been working on it for a long time, and it's been a while since we updated with Supra, and there's been so much that's happened, and I'm sure that there's many new people on our channel as well that probably haven't seen the last video. I would love to kick off our conversation together by, first of all, just sort of hearing a high level, up to date on what is Supra, what is everything that the team is building with this huge project, and then we can dive into all the latest details.
Yeah, sure. So most of you may know us as Supra Oracles, right? And we have recently pivoted to drop Oracles from our name. Now I say pivoted, but the truth of the matter is we actually always knew that we were going to make this change. We bought the domain supra.com maybe 2 years ago. And what our vision always has been is actually layer one technology with next generation Oracle, with kind of other kind of Oracle related services. So Oracles include price feeds. They also include cross-chain communication. They also include automation and on-chain randomness. Now we have built a system and a design and architecture where we can have this all fully vertically integrated. In fact, that is our thesis. It's the opposite thesis of the modular thesis, meaning where you might use one network for layer one, another network for, or rather layer two, another network for data availability, another network for, price feeds, and so on and so forth. And what that does is it creates disparate networks that you have to engage with. It increases latency, communication costs. It increases also the complexity of the system itself. And not to mention, the developer will have to handle multiple tokens. Now imagine, on the other hand, we had all these things all in one. That is what we're planning to do, and that's what we're designing for. And of course, every component itself is custom built. So this is not a fork of any chain. This is a new next generation kind of infrastructure, and that we think is sorely needed in our ecosystem.
It's very cool, Joshua, and congratulations. That's a huge expansion. Oracles themselves are a necessity to DeFi, to blockchain, price feeds, data availability overall. But I could understand completely how making a vertically integrated chain of everything, it just makes everything probably so much faster, cheaper, smoother, especially with the amount of different blockchains that are coming out, bridges, compatibility of languages, all of these other things. Just making like a super chain, so to say, is the right step. And I also saw on your on the Twitter handle, it was Supra Labs now. Is that a part of a foundation, or is that what Supra is going by on Twitter?
Yeah, so that change is also to make sure that we are not seen as just an Oracle. There are many things we work on. We work on verifiable compute, MPC, that's multi-party computation. Our team we have expert cryptographers on our team. Some of them are very famous, like our chief research officer, Dr. Annika Kate. Dr. Kate invented KZG commitments. KZG commitments are utilized in 4844 for Ethereum's kind of data availability play. They're Deng sharding, proto-Deng sharding. They rely on KZG commitments. That K is Kate, he invented it. So Supra is a, multifaceted kind of multiple services in one solution. And in addition to the other attributes you mentioned, including latency, it's faster, easier, single environment to develop upon. We also have shared security, meaning we apply layer one's security principles to solve the Oracle problem in many different ways. So remember, some of these ecosystems are actually, when you engage network to network like that, you may actually be breaking your security guarantee of the underlying layer one. So the moment a smart contract uses data from an external party, you have lost the smart contract's layer one security guarantee and instead have inherited the weaker security guarantee of the external service. So it's really important to put it all into one. And, technology has a trend towards vertical integration just in general. The iPhone moment, that was the large screen, compute, storage, telecommunication, GPS, one device. And similarly, we think the iPhone moment of blockchain is high throughput layer one consensus algorithm, which we have called Moonshot. Moonshot is very, very low latency, high throughput, and recently formally verified this. This is the ultimate security guarantee of safety. And on top of the stack, we also plan to have multi-virtual machine support. So move language like Aptos and Sui, EVM like Ethereum and other layer twos, and eventually Cosmwasm, Solana virtual machine, single platform. So we have the ability to do execution sharding. Moreover, when you have native Oracle, that means we have free price feeds built in. We also have cross-chain communication. We also will be bringing automation. It's kind of like the ultimate stack, effectively. We think that this is the iPhone moment for blockchain.
Wow, that's very cool. I'm looking forward to diving into the docs, because there's so much when you move into a vertical integration, trying to perfect all the pieces. And no longer are you just solving an Oracle problem, you're solving, hopefully, all of the problems and hindrances of blockchain. And there's a lot more when you dive into all these other areas. This is sort of an open question because there's so many different ways that you could be solving solutions when you add in all of these other things into Supra. But what do you think are, or is, the main hindrance of blockchain adoption, further massive adoption, and how will Supra help get to the next stage for that?
Yeah, so hindrances include, transaction fees, right? If they're expensive, then people can't afford to interact on a blockchain. That's why high throughput chains, like Supra, when you have a lot of capacity, the fees are generally really low, right? So we think that's going to be a huge one. For the developers also, by us providing these native Oracle services into the kind of layer one infrastructure itself directly, these smart contracts can do, and developers can do a lot more interesting things than they otherwise could do. And this is going to open up, just like the iPhone, by vertically integrating it. You could have Uber, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. That those applications didn't really exist before the iPhone moment. Similarly, we think there's going to be next generation dApps that can leverage our infrastructure stack to do new things in a very low latency, cheap, when I say cheap, like transaction fees, cheap environments. So we think that this will open the world up to just more use cases. More people can afford to interact on blockchains. And I think this will probably, I think this can usher in a lot more folks to the industry.
That's great to hear. And with the 4844 update that you mentioned earlier, I've noticed already some other blockchains are also lowering the cost, which is great because as the excitement comes back into crypto, the network congestion comes in, and it's like putting mainstream adoption to the test. All of a sudden costs are going up, and the testnet environments in which blockchains are checking whether their blockchain is actually capable of handling millions of transactions are now becoming reality. So it's great to actually see that adoption. But yeah, if we're going to have mainstream and retail, it needs to be very cheap, with cents or less, hopefully. So that's very exciting. And I want to ask a little bit more about the Oracle part, because obviously that's very important. Without oracles, there would be no prices on the blockchain. The blockchain needs some way to read external data. I saw that with Supra, the Oracle part is using something called DORA, and there's other advanced technologies that make it efficient. There are other oracles out there. Can you talk a little bit about the Oracle part? What makes the technology that Supra has built in the Oracle part so special, and why is it important for blockchain?
Yeah, definitely. Blockchains, just like out of the box, are closed loop systems. As you mentioned, they don't natively have this type of price information. They don't communicate with the outside world, and they don't communicate with each other. And they also don't have automation, and they also generally, they don't have on-chain randomness, because they're deterministic closed loop systems. So basically, blockchains today are kind of like ENIACs. ENIAC is like that first computer, it's like the size of a room, you could barely do anything, or could do like one thing very slowly. And that's kind of what blockchain has been. Now, what we're moving towards with kind of vertically integrating these Oracle services is a blockchain can now start to act like an actual computer, like an actual world computer. You need to have these abilities to communicate with the outside world. And the Oracle component is making sure that we run a protocol that is very secure so that any data that enters the blockchain itself has these layer one security guarantees. Now, DORA stands for Decentralized Oracle Agreement. And the way our protocol works is we randomize our nodes into subcommittees called clans. And the clans, right, the tribe, we have, the architecture is called tribes and clans. So we have the network as a tribe, and we have a randomized subcommittee called clans. These clan nodes will be connected also through a random assignment to multiple data sources, like exchanges and other kind of data aggregators. And what they will do is they will individually be, say, let's just suppose that there's 25 different data sources available for this particular data pair, like Bitcoin to USD. Each clan node might be assigned to 8 of these different data sources at random. So everyone does have the full coverage, and each of them, what they do is they report their median value. Now we send out their median value, their middle value, to an aggregator node. The aggregator node waits for enough responses from the clan. It's actually 51% of the responses that form what's called the coherent cluster, meaning the values are all within a certain agreement distance from each other. And then from there, we can average the price. And this is a really great representative value of the current asset. It's like a global snapshot. Because remember, the price of Bitcoin in one market is going to be different than another, right? So assets like Bitcoin are traded around the world, right? So there's no single venue in which this asset is traded. So what you need to do is you need to get a global snapshot for that current moment. And DORA captures this into a singular representative value. Moreover, the things that really matter in the Oracle problem when it comes to price feeds, there's 2 things. It's security, meaning data accuracy. It has to be correct. Number 2 is latency, speed. Now, when I talk about speed, I'm talking about the actual delta, the time difference between the time this value has been calculated, or you can also call this data freshness. Now, we are very much convinced that you cannot beat our design, that for the number of nodes that we will be using, the way that DORA works is very, very low latency. Our target is actually 600 to 900 millisecond data freshness. Now, one hop from one node to another is generally, let's just call it roughly 100 milliseconds. So our protocol, depending on the network, latency, just in general in the world, the asynchronous internet, we think that we can complete the protocol in a reliable manner between 600 to 900 milliseconds. We're not running it at that level at this moment, but our next version, DORA 2.0, is coming out in like a week or two, and these are the targets we're going for. So once again, the truth is, sometimes you might see other competitors updating their Oracle feed, and it looks like it's happening like very quickly, like maybe every 500 milliseconds or something like this. But the truth is that data freshness is actually older than ours, because they will go through multiple, they'll go through their own blockchain, then they'll have to use an external service network to deliver to another ecosystem and to sign off on it. Even though it looks like it's refreshing every like 500 milliseconds, in practice, that data is probably 3 to 5 seconds old. Now that is an opportunity, unfortunately, for something called Oracle extractable value. So people do see the kind of the superficial changes of these values, but the oldness, the freshness of this data is actually maybe much more stale than they realize. Whereas at Supra, what we're going for is 600 to 900 millisecond data freshness guarantees. So once again, security is first, but the next is latency. And our design is such that we believe this is the limit in terms of kind of decentralized system. Moreover, the thing that makes Supra very interesting and different than our other competitors are that we randomize our nodes. Our nodes are shuffled and changing. There's no fixed set of nodes that are always the same nodes that are doing this. And we have full provenance. We know exactly which node was assigned to which data sources and what the report was. So you can actually see the full transparency of how every single S value, we call it Supra value, these S values are calculated. So that's what makes Supra kind of a next generation Oracle. We did also get accepted to a top academic venue last year, ICDCS, through a double-blinded peer review process, which also effectively puts our protocol as the state of the art.
Wow. Very cool, Joshua. And there's so much that goes into the Oracle that people just, there's too much to think about when you go to the DeFi platform and you see, oh, this is the price of Ether. But how was that calculated? There's so many variables, the accuracy, the freshness of it, the security, the randomness, decentralization. So it sounds like you and your team have really put a lot of thought and years of work, I know, because I've been speaking to you guys for years, on making the best Oracle. So that's very cool, and I appreciate it. As DeFi continues to grow, it will only be something that will be absolutely needed more. And especially now in this newer cycle, there's more DeFi going on more blockchains. You know, since 21, there was a couple blockchains that had a lot of TVL, but now that there's so many, and not just on the EVM chains, there's other chains, and there's new chains that have new languages as well. Is there a component to making this work on all blockchains and moving forward as well as more blockchains come out? You know, there's like 50 to 100 blockchains now. It's crazy with different programming languages. How does Supra keep up with trying to service the best ones and, you know, as many as they can?
Yeah, so our team once again has we have expert cryptographers on our team, and the answer is pretty simple. So Supra does a lot of the work on our end, right? And when these nodes, these clans, they reach a majority agreement, they can threshold sign. They have one signature that can update hundreds of data pairs, like 500. Now, what we have to do is deploy our smart contract on each of these destination chains. And what they're checking for effectively is our threshold signatures. If the singular threshold signature verifies, and we also include what are called Merkle roots, or Merkle proofs, rather. With the threshold signature and the Merkle proofs verify, you can actually update an entire payload of up to 400, 500 data pairs. Now, the key is that, does this blockchain have the ability to verify our cryptography? Most of them do, you know, so, and we also do sign in multiple signature schemes. So the bottom line is it's actually very scalable. We're actually on, I think, over 55 networks now. You know, the proliferation of layer twos, subnets, parachains, cosmos zones, they all need Oracle. They all want Oracle, and we're able to move fast to deploy there. Once again, most of the work is done on Supra. The verification is done on the destination chain. So yeah, that's how we handle it, and it is a scalable model.
That's very cool, and yeah, it's a lot to keep up. So it's nice to hear that Supra sort of done it in an easy way. And one other thing about having all these blockchains is right now it's not a perfect picture of unified liquidity. Even the same assets, you know, Ethereum and stablecoin on one blockchain, you can't combine that liquidity to other chains, and then the APYs are different and people are moving assets back and forth. I feel like if we're going to be as big as traditional finance, then there needs to be more of a unified liquidity solution where the pools are bigger, the spreads and the costs are lower, and we don't have to do extra tasks to bridge between blockchains. What do you think of the current state of DeFi and more unifying the liquidity, and can Supra help with that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think this is the biggest problem, in my opinion, of DeFi, the fragmented liquidity across these layer twos and other networks. And that's not a great user experience. You end up with a lot of slippage. You don't have effective use of capital. There's cross-chain communication, bridging risks, etc. And what we do in our thinking is that, you know, what we're trying to position ourselves is almost like a network in which we call it an intro layer, a layer between layer ones and layer twos. Now, how do we handle this? This is kind of a little bit of this will require a little bit of an explanation, but let's put it this way. We have two cross-chain communication protocols. Why do we have two? One of them is more suitable for layer one to layer one, but the layer twos, they have their own kind of challenges. Let's put it this way. So we have the second type of bridge for that. So the first one, which we call Hypernova, Supra's Hypernova cross-chain communication protocol, is actually bridgeless. There's no bridge. How does that work? How does a one layer one and one layer one communicate with each other? The only way to do that is through cryptography. So the insight is the following. Let's suppose, you know, Ethereum, once they move away from proof of work to proof of stake, we actually know the validator sets, you know. Same thing with Aptos, Sui, these other layer ones emergent new ecosystems. In proof of stake, if we have awareness of their validator set, our insight, very simple once you see it, can't we just recalculate and verify their consensus, right? So basically, in Ethereum, they have something called a sync committee. It's 512 nodes out of like, I think, a million nodes available that are randomly selected that sign off on Ethereum blocks as well. We can take that signature, it's a BLS signature that can be aggregated to one single signature. We just need someone or something to give that information to our network. And then we check if this verifies against our knowledge of the sync committee's node operator set. And if it verifies, then that's effectively Ethereum layer 1 security. Then Supra itself, right? So that's an Ethereum to Supra. So that's what we mean by bridgeless. But Supra will also connect to other chains. So you can go from Ethereum to Supra. Supra verifies the consensus of the chain that we're interacting with. And then we can also, we have to reach our own consensus on this and then deliver the payload to the destination chain. So we can do things like multi-chain interactions, not just one to one. We could do one to many, actually, which is quite interesting. And this type of solution will help, to some degree, unify the liquidity across these ecosystems. Supra can have knowledge of the balances of different vaults or assets across different ecosystems. In fact, Supra wants to be the intra ledger, like a ledger in the beginning, an intra layer, where we keep track of asset movements across layer 1s and layer 2s. Now, the last thing I want to mention about the layer 2 bridging. So we have Hypernova that's more suitable for layer 1 to layer 1. We have something called Hyperloop, which is more suitable for layer 2 to layer 2. And they are fundamentally different, but the Hyperloop is the first cross-chain communication protocol that is also, game theoretically secure. We've proven the game theory that is not profitable to collude. So we have collusion resistance. And we have some very interesting kind of insights here as well. Our papers and our research are on our website, supra.com/research. Hypernova and Hyperloop are very different, but they are low latency, they're inexpensive, and they're very secure. So this will be a step in the right direction to provide more cross-chain liquidity unification. And we think that this is one of the most important things to solve.
Wow, I completely agree, and that sounds really cool. It sounds like you guys have thought of mostly everything. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. And speaking of sort of the roadmap and leaning towards the mainnet, I know this is a huge initiative over many years of hard work. From what I understand, the mainnet launch is coming closer. Can you talk about where your team's at right now and what's coming up in the near future?
Yeah. So it's been 3 years and 2 months since Supra started. So it's been a hell of a journey, and of course, building through the bear is not always easy. It's always difficult. But this wasn't the first time I've been through a bear. I've been working in this industry full time since 2017. And where we're at is we're very close in terms of our mainnet launch and going on exchanges, et cetera. I know our backers are very excited to hear that. There are some things that, just to kind of provide some insight for folks that might not know, we work with market makers from around the world. Some of them are huge publicly traded organizations that are getting into blockchain with a very high reputation organization. And in order, they only work with very legitimate projects. Also, we're talking to the top exchanges around the world, all of them basically. These conversations are also underway. They've been well underway for months, and we're coordinating on a launch date. Moreover, our testnet is growing. So we have been onboarding some of the top brands in terms of node operators into our network. And we have a series of stress tests we want to complete first before we go into mainnet. So all I can say is it's around the corner. We're going to go to market with a high throughput layer 1 consensus algorithm, with our DORA protocol, with our on-chain randomness solution, VRF. VRF, verifiable random function, is very good for on-chain gaming, for these games of chance or loot boxes or randomized NFTs, or just any on-chain game usually needs randomness. And then what we're going to layer upon that is a couple more things, including multi-virtual machine support, and then automation. Now, once we have those components in, we have one last really interesting protocol that will kind of put everything together, which is what we call a dynamic function market maker. So instead of an AMM, where like Uniswap, which actually does have some issues in terms of impermanent loss and also slippage, et cetera, the dynamic function market maker can be more precise. And we're able to do this in a cross-chain environment. So it's like a cross-chain DEX. enshrined into Supra for basically cross-network coordination. So these are all being worked on in parallel, right? And there's also some really, I should mention this. This is really exciting. There's no information on our website, and we'll be publishing this in the next weeks to come. We have a parallel execution strategy, a very novel smart contract parallel execution strategy that has potential. Some of our folks, the PhDs on my team, and we study our competitors, think that this might be the limit in terms of the high performance in terms of parallel execution. So when you stack very efficient data dissemination and data availability with low latency, high throughput moonshot consensus algorithm, then stack it with this final parallel execution, you have a high performing machine. And then you have the native Oracle, native cross-chain communication, and native automation. This is what we do view is the future of the technology. We think that we're building the ultimate chain, and we think this is going to be very valuable, not only to us, but to the ecosystems we service. So, we're very excited about this. And it is a hell of a build. It's a lot to do. It's going to be rolled out in stages, but it's looking very good. And I want you guys to know that in general, Supra does not promote something unless we prove it. Mm-hmm. Our team is very serious, and we like to do peer review. We like to have all the data, and then we like to talk about it. So there are some things that we're rolling out soon that are very exciting that might take the world by surprise because they wouldn't expect this to come out of Supra. More on that soon. It's going to be a matter of weeks, maybe 4 more weeks or so, where we can have all the data collected and share it. But there's a chance that we may be on par or exceeding the state of the art for consensus, for parallel execution, for Oracle, and imagine that, all that in one, so this is what we aspire to do. And we're actually quite close to cracking this and bringing it to market.
That's incredible, Joshua. And it's very exciting. There's so many pieces. I have been using on the Supra platform, there's also the Community Blastoff, which gives you a lot of education about all these functions. There's so many things. You could spend a whole university course learning about all of the different parts of this huge machine. So I know there's almost 500,000 people that are also doing that, which is incredible to see a community that's been going on for quite a while now. I can also leave a link to that in the show notes. Is there any other place that is the best place for people to follow along with the road to the mainnet or to learn about these other updates as they come out?
Yeah, I would say, our project Blastoff, it's kind of interesting that Blast, this layer 2 came out. They use the word blast. They also had a point system. Actually, Supra has had a point system since over 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, rather. And we have grown our Blastoff program to 500,000. We're at like 490,000 right now. And these are verified individual users. Like, we KYC them. Now, we don't care so much about the KYC component, but we needed to have a very robust civil prevention mechanism. Now, when Supra launches, we're about to hit the 500K goal. We're going to let this run probably till a little extra time. So I would say, everyone that's listening, if they want to learn more, click your link that you'll be sharing and sign up through your link, and you can earn tokens, etc. But what's really, really cool is that we think that we will set a world record for a layer 1 launch with that many verified account holders, token holders. It might be on the order of 600,000 token holders. Now, we have WorldCoin. They had like 1 million, and they also had like 10 times more money than us, but they're a layer 2. This is the first time for a layer 1 to have these kind of numbers. And what I like to tell people is that, does this directly correlate to success? Maybe. I don't know the full answer, but it definitely does improve our implied odds of creating long-term network effects. Mm-hmm. So we're excited about this. We're glad to see that our tokens will be held by many, many people. I would not be surprised that we have over 1 million people with Supra tokens within 6 months from now. It's very, very possible.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. And yeah, I'm continuing to follow on. There's like weekly lessons of all these different pieces that you and your team are building. There's so much to learn, to keep up with. They say if you're not struggling to keep up in blockchain, then you're not paying attention, because there's just so much innovation in rebuilding both the internet and finance. It's an incredible time. And I thank you for sharing your time with us, Joshua. I appreciate all the insights into what's coming up for Supra. All the best with the road to the mainnet launch and hitting 500,000. a million Supra token holders. It's very exciting times for blockchain and Web3 overall. So really do appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks so much, Ashton. Good to be here.